It's an intro theme. It's an intro theme. Anybody jump in. And it's the show.
All right.
All right. We're all here and accounted for, birds and all.
Do you hear birds?
I
Yep.
Yeah, my chickens aren't very loud right now, but I've got two cardinals that are making a nest in my backyard somewhere, and they're very active. But I don't think that's them.
That's what people are tuning in for. This is Cardinal Stream on
Cardinal.
post training.
This is bird watching with Dan, John, and Sal. Welcome.
Welcome.
How to use your chi to talk to animals with Dan.
So
that would be the spin-off show. That would be the spin-off show.
Yeah.
That would exactly
in
be
either of your lineages. Do they talk about talking to animals? Like, is that a thing that is like an aspiration in either of your martial arts lineages?
I think only when you're like in your 80s and the dementia starts setting in and you start, espousing that sort of thing to your students. But yeah, no, not in anything that we do.
no, just no. Sorry, buddy. Is that something that you guys do? Is that
No, not necessarily. No. But I am aware of a few martial arts systems where like pinnacle is like being able to commune and converse with nature to the point where like you can talk to animals. And I don't have anything against that. Listen, I'm out in nature all the time. I love it. I definitely, am in for us, the purpose, the ultimate purpose of martial arts is good health, long life, and oneness with nature. That is, but when you start to go down that path of actually communicating with the animals, and that can be like, how do you teach that? Like that could be little interesting. Yeah.
I feel like our Highlander reference before the stream now applies because we've been connecting with all living things.
Oh, you had Highlander references? Did I miss these?
You missed it.
You did. We're getting in
Did
early.
You see they're doing a reboot?
We're not talking about that. We're not talking.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
You were too busy getting ready for the podcast with the woodland creatures assisting you.
Yeah.
Like a
I was
Disney movie.
singing.
You were doing nature
birds,
cast or whatever. Like
they were combing your beard and yeah.
I had a bird right here with a little comb.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting into
How
too
did
much.
you know this, Sal? You've been spying on me.
Of course he has. All right, folks.
Just this morning, I was outside and I had a knoll on my shoulder. I did actually.
Legit?
I was out front. And a knoll. It's like a little lizard.
Oh.
He was like right here, and I was like, "What's up, little dude?" And then he jumped away.
Yeah, you don't have the Yamori, the geckos that are here that breed incessantly. I had legit story. I had a gi, and I was just sitting in my closet here, not here, but in another place that I lived, and I hadn't really taken it out for a while. I took it out, and there was gecko eggs in the gi.
Had a whole family living in there, huh?
Yeah, I had been in there for like maybe 2 months, maybe, and I just hadn't taken it out, and there was gecko eggs.
There's your training motivation. Put
Yeah.
your gi on more regularly, otherwise you'll have eggs. You'll have gecko eggs growing in there.
Gentlemen, how can we get past gecko eggs and knolls? So, Dan, how has your week of training been?
I don't know who wants to go first. Sal, why don't you go first?
Sure. Yeah. It's been good. Got into the dojo pretty much every day this week. Been something sort of new for me is because I've added a few classes to our already busy schedule, and so in order to make sure I stay married, I handed off a couple of my classes to senior students and said, these are your classes now. Like, you can run these however you want. They're yours. You need to take more time learning how to teach Okay, so if I ever get hit by a bus or something, there's someone who can sort of keep doing it. Because right now I sort of do all the teaching, and so this is sort of a big step for me, delegating down and saying, yep, Monday night class, Wednesday night class, they're yours, because I'm taking a 6 a.m. class on Wednesdays. But that's been going well. Yeah, some good hard training this week, and it's been good.
Wow.
That is awesome.
Is that the first time you've ever delegated a class?
Um, I mean, I've certainly had students take classes for me when I've been ill, or I might have a senior student lead warm ups, or take some junior students, that sort of stuff. That happens all the time, but it's my first time basically saying, this is now permanently your time slot. You're taking this class, and I mean, I gave them a choice, right? I'm not a dictator. I said, are you interested in taking this class? And they were, and so that's what we're doing. So yeah, it's the first time really just handing over a class just permanently to some senior students.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's a tough step.
it is.
I'm not at that point. I have one guy, Bernie. He's awesome. He's been with me for like 6 years. But he's the guy who's from Colombia, so he speaks fluent Spanish. So I started a Spanish speaking class.
Oh, that's really nice.
Pre-pandemic, and he ran it. So I was like, "This is yours. You do it." Blah blah blah, and that was awesome. And then the pandemic hit, and so we ended up cutting it. But once we get back to kind of, we're almost there. We're almost there where I can start putting that back in there.
That's awesome.
I'll give it back to him again. We'll have because here in Colombia, I don't know about where you are, Sal, but here there's a large Hispanic community.
Yeah, there is here too. Yeah.
But there's no I don't know. There's seemingly no, unless I don't know about it. There's seemingly no martial arts school for that is just Spanish speaking. So I almost feel like they may feel intimidated to come in to train with me if they want to. So this would I try to kind of tap into and give them something to do, give them an outlet, martial arts outlet. Mm-hmm. So hopefully I can get back to that. But that's the only time currently that I've been able to give somebody a class. Beyond that, I haven't yet.
Yeah, no, that's cool though. Yeah, no, it's a big step for me anyway, because I've sort of been running the show for a long time, and I really want them to. I don't want them to have to take classes because I suddenly disappeared, and they had to sort of fend for themselves. I'd like to be able to guide their teaching, because when I started teaching, I don't want to say I didn't have a choice, but I sort of didn't have a choice, and so I kind of learned the ropes of teaching on my own, and you make a lot of mistakes doing that. So I want to try and be more intentional about developing them as sensei, as teachers, and be able to give them some feedback about how they're doing their teaching, because I wasn't really getting any myself when I was a young Shodan and started teaching some classes. So just trying to help them move along and help them develop more as senior students.
Awesome.
That's great. It's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to know, and you have to do trial by error a lot. I remember when I had a decent sized class, but it became levels were just too various to take everything on. So I just took a couple of people who had been there for a little bit, for like maybe half a year, and been like, all right, you guys lead this. You're not teaching it, but go lead it. You guys have seen enough of what I do. Go do it with these guys. And it actually worked out, but that's kind of a microcosm of I didn't leave it to anybody. Anytime I left it to anybody, it just kind of fell apart. But yeah, that's
right.
Which I'm not saying is going to happen in your situation. You're a better teacher than I am, so.
Yeah, I think for me and John, maybe we talked about this the last time we were on the stream together. I think what sort of pushed me over the ledge, so to speak, to make that decision was we've had a nice influx of new students come in now that our Illinois just is basically fully reopened now.
Wow.
So people are getting more comfortable and we can train without masks and everything. So we've seen some new students come in, which is really great. But I also realized really quickly that I have not taught white belts in a very long time. Over the pandemic, I had a very core group of uh, advanced to senior students and some intermediates who, know the ropes. They know how I teach, and we can sort of just keep doing very advanced and just different things. And then suddenly I had white belts in the class. I was like, oh, wow, yeah, you don't even know what a front stance is yet, do you? Okay, yeah, we gotta do something here. So it's
Right.
senior students. You guys can teach the white belts, and I'll do the fun stuff with the big kids.
There's always a kind of a slippery slope where that. Not saying that that's going to happen to you, but I've seen this in other places where the kind of the top guy doesn't ever teach the kind of lower belts or whatever, and
Yeah,
there's arguments to be made for both. But I think as long as there is at least interaction there, and as long as
sure,
and I think that builds your community. If you
absolutely.
as long as you do it in the right way, it builds your community up in a much more positive way. Um, I don't not to get into adjudicate your decision at all.
No. And I think it's a good point because I wouldn't want to get to a point where, white belts didn't feel like they could come talk to me or ask questions. Cause I've been in that situation or in dojos where if you're a yellow belt and you have a fifth dan over there running the class, like you don't go talk to him ever. Like you go to a brown belt and ask your question first. If the brown belt can't answer your question, you go to the next level up. But you do not bother the senior sensei. And I don't ever want that. I want to be approachable. I want people to be students to feel comfortable talking to me about anything. So, we have a kind of my classes are a little bit laid back in terms of etiquette, I guess. I mean, yes, we bow. It's all yes sir, no sir. Nobody calls me by my first name or anything. But it's not super duper militaristic and traditional Japanese dojo type stuff where don't walk in front of a black belt, don't interrupt a black belt, and it's just I don't know. I think that creates too many opportunities for people to go on power trips, and I just want everybody to have a good time.
Yeah.
Same. I mean, like so much of martial arts culture here in the States was brought here by military guys.
Yeah.
So much of martial here in the United States is military.
Yep.
And there's a place for that, sure. But I'm not a military guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to run my school like a military guy. You know, I'll still, we still line up and we still bow in and we do all those things, but when we train, I mean, I've had some people come in and after class, they're just like, wow, you're really relaxed. Like, I mean, like I'm like, yeah, I am. I smile a lot. We talk a lot. We converse a lot. This is a family. Welcome.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of it? Like that's,
yeah.
But I think that it also confuses, like this will sometimes confuse people because I've had, as I'm sure you have as well, whenever somebody finds out you do martial arts, they go, oh yeah, my neighbor's doing martial arts and my nephew's doing martial arts over at such and such. And oh, it's really great. And you tell, oh, fantastic. It's wonderful. That's awesome. Tell me about it. And they go, oh, it's great. They got the kids lining up and standing nice and straight. And they're, oh, yes, sir. It's great. Great discipline.
Yeah.
And then after they're done talking, you say, so how good is the martial? Are they learning anything? I want to know. This is what I want to know about. The discipline and the life skills that you learn are learned through training.
Yeah.
Not through militaristic regimen.
Yep.
I want you to learn real things. Not that, I shouldn't say that, but I want students to get good at martial arts. That's what I want them to get good at. I want them to be able to, if they fall, they don't get hurt. If they trip, they don't fall. If they, like these things I care about. Not so much that they stand straight in line and their chin's tucked in and they're straight, squared shoulders, and like I don't care.
Oh, the tips of your belt were just slightly off there. Go do 10 push-ups and then fix your belt so they're even. I mean, I've been in that sort of environment where I'm like, Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have a good friend who tells me a story that, one time he went into an instructor's class and his belt was slightly off, and he was made to take his belt off and put it back on incessantly for the remainder of the class, the entire class. And it's like that doesn't teach you anything. All
That's
that
just
does
being a
is
dick.
make people upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because
It's a wasted training session.
Well,
I agree with you, Sal.
And
Yeah.
no, sorry. Dan, go right ahead.
Oh, go for it.
John?
Go for it.
Well, and I think that's where I've seen that happen is a lot of people who don't understand what culture. I don't want to get into too much of the cultural discussion, but they're taking one idea of militarism that they might not even understand and applying it where it's inappropriate. And and there's a big difference between having the kind of militaristic view of the classroom where everyone's in line and disciplined and doing everything to the letter versus, oh, you made that one mistake, we're gonna punish you for it, we're gonna come down and hard on you and beat you into the ground. That doesn't, especially when you're talking about the difference between that and like civilian life and quote unquote running a business, these things don't line up. And that's why I say you have the three kinds of martial art schools or teachers, right? You have the hippies, you have like the 80s business guys, and then you have the military guys. And I use this broadly as kind of stereotypes. Obviously, all three of us kind of.
Those are good categories. I can think of
Think
experiences where I've met people who sort of fall into one of those three or a little bit of all three. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And we've all experienced it. All of us have. It doesn't matter like to what extent or to what degree. Those are the people who run martial arts schools in America. In some way, shape, or form. And part of it I feel is kind of what's been passed down, and my thing is like you want to lean on the relaxed side, you don't want to go full hippie, because I've just you end up getting these like weird,
you don't want to commune with animals, John.
I will merge with everything. I will take the prize. There can be only one.
You need Goku with the spirit bomb.
There you go.
Give me all of your energy.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to lean more towards the relaxed side with, but an eye more towards the business side, right? So I mean, I have to treat the dojo as, I mean, these are also customers, and they are paying to be there, and they're paying to have a good customer experience. So if someone is trying a class out for the first time, they've never taken martial arts in their life, and they're getting screamed at because they accidentally walked in front of a black belt who was having a conversation with someone, like that is not going to retain customers. It's not creating an environment where someone is going to want to stay and train if they know they're going to get yelled at like that.
I want to do some research on that exact thing you just said, Sal, because that makes no sense to me from a cultural perspective. I want to do a dig on that at some point, because you have to be like avoiding, like if you're in a room, right? What determines walking in front of somebody? Right, you've got you got potentially 4 walls and 1 or 2 exits and entrances, depending upon where the person's facing. Like, and what that person's now inaccessible to you because of what their rank. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have no idea where that comes from.
It's just one example of sort of that, the black belt elitism of, once you get that black belt, you are sort of you achieve this godlike status, and now everybody who's a colored rank must adhere to all of these precautions and rules when they're in your presence. And I got real tired of that stuff a long time ago.
Yeah. There's a certain level of LARPing that happens
Sure.
right? So
Yeah.
they're playing this role, and they have
Thunderbolt.
their their outfit, their costume, and they have their title, and they have their and you must bow, and
Yeah.
there's a big level of that. Um, uh, I would say that probably the majority of martial arts schools in the United States are that.
I would
I,
agree.
Well, and I feel like
hate
that.
saying that, but I went ahead and said it.
Well, and then there's like Dan, I've seen you have kind of several different outfits for the kind of the different stuff you do, but that's because that has different connotations for those contexts, right?
Sure, like if I do sword, I can't do sword in my Tangsudo dobok because the sword doesn't fit, right? I mean, like the sword as a tool has to go in the kakuobi. It's get wrapped in around the himo of the hakama. Like that's how the sword fits, right? And then I can do the iai kata.
It's a functional
If you
outfit.
Yeah.
exactly, it's not so much that what it looks like. It's that it is functional for the tool in which I'm using, which the tool in what I'm using is based in that cultural element of this is what they wore back then, so it was designed for that. And so like I can't, if I try to wear the like the regular karate obi with a sword, there's too much play. So the
Mm-hmm.
sayabiki is different. You I can turn it in ways that I wouldn't be able to if it was in hakama. Like um, so it's different. But again, it's just functional. It's not so much of what it looks like. And then the Tangsudo Dobok, I mean, eh, it's like it's a karate gi, but it again, it's just workout clothing. Like it's
It's
like
not
people
supposed to
people will
be.
see me, yeah, people will see I wear a samwe top often, just because I get done doing calligraphy or whatever, and I go to the dojang, and then I'm still wearing my samwe, and I don't feel like getting changed this month. Like it's whatever. And people will message me and be like, "Why aren't you wearing your doba?" I'm like, "Because I don't have to." Like,
You
it's
two
just
also are legendary on Instagram, both in like the same week for doing like shirtless uh like Sal, like you show off your Adonisness a lot of the time.
man, I'm not in
Fighting
good shape
skaters.
though.
So
Sal is in much better shape than I am. My goodness.
yeah, you both are braver than I am because that'll never happen.
But again,
Um,
it's all down to function, right? My shirt is off because it's hot as hell here right now.
Yeah.
yeah,
and and mine was off because I was paying attention to my spine and my lower back muscles
There
while
you
I
go.
was doing the squat down. So I had to see what was going on.
hmm,
That's all.
there you go. Yeah, my training this week has been all about consistency. And I can
Nice.
proudly say, last 2 weeks have been consistent. This day
Nice.
I do this, this day I do this, this day I do this, this day I do this. No variations, generally. Yesterday was kind of an exception where I decided to step up a little more um, for like a longer run, and it worked out pretty well. So
What did you do something different that helped you stay more consistent, or
no,
are you no
it was just a matter of consistency. I think that was just kind of it.
just doing it?
Well, and I think everyone gets into grinds and ruts and moods, right? And I don't think we recognize this enough in our training, um, even when it comes to teaching, right? We get on the floor and then we'll come into a certain way of approaching something, and it's just regular to us, it's normal to us. It's just basic human psychology, right? We're comfortable with it, we're familiar with it, and establishing something new or establishing something to be regular is probably a more difficult thing than we realize. So establishing, I think, for me in the last couple of weeks has been kind of the greatest thing I've done for my training recently. No students to speak of right now, but at least there's that in my training. So
Yeah.
hopefully in later today I can show a little more on that in
Cool.
different spaces. But for now, that's all I'll say.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I know that for me, consistency is really difficult.
Yep.
Like if I don't force myself to do something, I ain't doing it. Where my dad, if there's a slight hiccup in his consistency, he's just it just kills him. Like he becomes completely devoid of life. So
That's
like
I'm probably more like him.
yeah,
I mean, if my wife could hear me, she'd say, yeah. Because anytime something falls out of my routine or my habit, I don't like surprises. So,
yeah,
I get up at the same time every day. I go to bed at the same time. I train during the same times, and I like my consistency. And when
yeah.
things don't go that way, that like gives me a short. It's like, oh yeah, no.
My wife is similar to that. I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, so what's happening today? Like I'm completely like I have no desire to be on some plan or whatever. And my classes run that way. Like I don't plan classes. Like I have a schedule and I know when I have to be there.
Right.
But like I have no clue what I'm gonna teach next week. Like I have some idea, but
Right.
sometimes it's like, oh, somebody asked this question on a group in Facebook. We're gonna work on that tonight. Like,
Yeah.
and
But that's how I teach as well. That's the interesting thing. So
that is interesting.
regimented as my day and my training is, I
Yeah.
never plan my training. I never plan my teaching. It's like, okay, who do we have here today? Great, you're working on
Right.
what? All right, well, let's do this. And
Right.
we just I'm usually shooting from the hip whenever I teach.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's because that's something that you can't control. But the things that you can control, you control.
Yeah.
But like me, I mean, I can control a lot of different things. I just don't care. Like there's this level, and I hate to say that, but like there's this level of just this is not as important as people think it is. Like I just yeah, I'm fine. But and then so I blame my parents because we moved around a lot as I was a kid.
That's
And
the
so
name of the movie.
change.
I blame sir.
I
I blame my parents. I accuse my parents.
I accuse my parents. Well, we moved like I mean, by the time I was in 5th grade, I had lived in like 12 different houses. I had been in like 9 or 10 different schools.
Oh wow, yeah.
We just moved constantly. So change is something that is very natural to me.
Sure.
It just I love change. I feed off of it. My wife hates it because I'm always kind of like, now what are we doing, right? Like so like
you're ready for the next thing.
I am like always. And so like when somebody comes into class, I'm like, all right, what are we doing? Are we outside? Are we inside? Like, what's going on? Like, this is the way that I work. My wife, like if we go on vacation or whatever, she plans like everything out.
Right? Sure. Yeah.
And then it never goes as planned, right? And I'm always like, here we go.
Yeah.
And she freaks out. I don't know how you're so, you don't care.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that I plan out probably more like your wife does. If we're going on a trip, then we're planning things out. But with my training and my teaching, it's whatever I feel like doing is what we're doing. Maybe some days I'll say, okay, well, let's look at the actual syllabus here and see what you guys need to know. Okay, I guess we haven't done this kata in a while. We should probably go for that. But it's usually like whatever I'm in the mood for.
Yeah. That's cool.
I feel once you get past syllabus, like once I don't say I'm beyond syllabus now, but once it becomes something that you have control over, it stops being something you feel controlled by. And
Sure.
And that's where you get to actually play with the martial arts a little more. Where I've had problems is being like, I need to practice the syllabus every day. Except it's a syllabus. You can't practice a syllabus every day. You can do parts of it and pieces of it, and you should try to cover everything as much as possible. I've always tried to do like a kitchen sink day, where it's just, all right, cross-check on everything. and
Mhm.
it's never actually happened. Or if it
Right.
ever happens, it's like, all right, this is taking way too long.
Sure. Well, I was having a conversation with one of the seniors that I handed a class to, because he's like, oh well, he was asking all these questions before he started taking the class, and he seemed really focused on, he didn't have the syllabus memorized. I'm like, you don't, like, I don't have it memorized. That's why there's a paper copy of it in the office. Like I don't have it memorized. You don't have to, like, just, you can teach however you want to teach. You know what they need to know, and if you need to reference it, it's there in the office. Go look at it. But the syllabus is there. It's a structure to give people that feeling like they know what's coming next and what they can prepare for. But yeah, when it comes down to your own training and what you're working on and your own development, I'm like, yeah, throw it out the window. Whatever. I don't look at it in terms of my own training.
Right. There's a certain level of, like it also depends on what the curriculum is, right? Some martial arts styles are not progressive in the same way. Like
Sure.
karate, a lot of times is like, okay, we're going to do kindergarten here, then we're going to do first grade, then we're going to do second grade, and it's progressive. And things are done at that level for a specific reason, and that prepares you for the next level. Like this is normal, but for some systems, like that doesn't actually happen. So like knowing the curriculum for karate kind of helps to
Sure.
know how your students should be progressing. What should they be working at this level, because they're getting ready to learn this next thing, right? But if your curriculum doesn't stack that way, then it's not very important. And I had this conversation this morning with my Wing Chun friend and his student, because in Wing Chun there are no belts traditionally, right? Same like in Tai Chi Chuan, no belts.
They'll do the colored
sword
sashes.
system.
Is that?
No,
colored...
not traditionally. No, I mean
Okay.
They can be now, but that's a modern thing.
Sure.
In Koryu arts in Japan, no belts, right?
Right.
No
Yeah.
Systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like in these systems, they're not as progressive. They're not like karate is. I mean, it's so regimented like this in so many ways, especially Japanese, like Funakoshi style karate and Mabuni is like pam, 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 pam. But then the one thing that's good about that, this curriculum that I found, is it takes me out of it. Like I can say to my students, I'm not gonna judge you right now as me judging you. I'm gonna judge you with the curriculum. Then I can't have any bias.
Right.
And that's one good thing that I like about it, because if you're not meeting the progression, no matter how much I like you, no matter how much I think that you're doing well, I have to keep you there because you haven't met that progress.
Yeah.
That I think is what gives belt rank meaning.
Sure.
And I wish that more karate schools would address it that way, because then the belts would actually probably have meaning.
Sure. Sometimes you get the challenge I ran into, because we've always had a syllabus, but we didn't always have a syllabus that explicitly said like this is what you're going to be tested on. Before that, we had a syllabus, and then when you show up for your belt test, it might be 2 hours, it might be 3 hours, and you have no idea what the sensei is going to ask you to do. So which was obviously creates stress and terror for the student who's going to be testing. But now they know, like, these are the things you're going to be asked to do on your test, no more, no less, and you can prepare for these, practice them, and there's really no surprises. Because I think sometimes when you have a syllabus that like that, it can end up being like a checklist. Well, I know all these things, give me my belt. Well,
right.
you know that kata, but you're not. It's not. There's all this internal stuff that's not quite there yet. It's more than just saying, yeah, I can get to this kata from beginning to end, and I'm good to go. There's a lot more to it than that.
Right.
It can't be paintbrushed. That's the thing.
Right.
That's one thing I have a very strict limit on it, where it can't be. Because where I saw this happen a lot was seeing people try to rush people to black belt, and this was
Mm-hmm.
generally for monetary reasons.
Sure.
We're saying like year and a half, you'll get to white belt or get to black belt, and very much rushing people into uh, paying money rather than understanding karate.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing was, all right, if they can actually show they know it in that time period, because I had a good friend of mine who's now passed who got to black belt in 13 months.
Wow.
But that was back in the day, plenty of time, train 2 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Guy had been retired from karate for probably 20 years, came back to it and was like he never left.
Mm-hmm.
Like the skills were just there, right? Um, I don't think that was based on, especially at that time. I don't think it was really based on much of a structured curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But where I mean to go with that is where Sal, I would agree with you in that it needs to have. I would agree with both of you when saying that yeah, that curriculum is good to be able to measure where that person is. It needs to be the yardstick, not a goalpost. Um,
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
but it absolutely needs to have something behind it, rather than just going, "I did the form. Look, I did it. Hooray! Give me my belt."
Yeah.
So
But then so correct me if I'm wrong, John, because you're the one that's actually there in Japan. But I've heard that in Japan it's not uncommon to get a black belt within a year or 2 years because they don't treat Shodan as anything special like we do over here. Over here, Shodan, you're a god. In Japan, Shodan's like, yeah, you're ready to start. It's
be,
not a huge achievement over there.
because it's not. Well, yeah, exactly. Because it's not. It depends on where you're doing it with, how you're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
um, how much you're doing it, right? How much it's actually valued and stuff like that. It depends on anybody you're working with. But
Mm-hmm.
I think where it got overblown in the States is seeing black belt and seeing that as
Mm-hmm.
something more than it is. Get all these military guys who came over to um, both Japan and Korea who got all these ranks for various different reasons in various different ways and
Mm-hmm.
got really high up. And like I told you about my friend who trained for like 2 hours a day every day and got a black belt in 13 months in the States. Um, but the same amount of training done by a military guy who in Okinawa or Korea getting like a fourth done or whatever, um, then how serious can we really take that? It's anyone's really guess. But it definitely depends. But I'd say you're correct, Sal. It's that here it is a big deal, but it's also like I look at the kids do karate in the bukatsu for like 5 years, 6 years, or whatever. But here's the interesting thing: in junior high school, they'll become a black belt in junior high school, and then they'll go to high school, and then they'll start up over as a white belt when they join the karate
Really?
club there. Yeah, they'll start over as a white belt
Hmm.
because it's a different club.
Different club, different style, different
I
or just different club.
Probably
Doesn't
it's the
matter.
same style,
Okay.
probably, but it's just because they're now in high school. So
Hmm.
I've seen it happen, and nobody gets like pissy about rank because they.
I was gonna say they're probably fine with it. Like, yep, that's just
Right.
part of it. Yeah. Over here, they
Right.
throw a hissy fit about it.
Oh yeah.
How dare you start me back at white belt?
Because
Right.
it's not in the school curriculum. It's not in like school, but it's not like a club activity in
Mm-hmm.
in the States. It is a club activity here.
Mm-hmm.
And what your teacher says goes, like it does in the States. Um, and if mommy wants to get involved and say, well, he's a black belt, so he was a black belt in high school, in junior high, or in high school now, it's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
It's also because they participate in national championships and stuff like that, so in national tournaments and stuff. So that actually does matter.
Mm.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, like here in the States too, like you would in sports, you could say, "Oh, my kid was a captain of the football team."
hmm,
Yeah, but that was in middle school, so he can't just be captain of the football team in high school just because.
Yeah.
And
nope.
and then nobody would get upset if you did that in sports, but in karate they have a
Yeah.
different feeling. because in karate they pay for it.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
They own it.
That's why I'm 100% for a public trust for martial arts in the United States. That's never going to happen, but like for something similar to what happens with karate here, like karate in America, like why not have a karate club? Why not have a public school karate club?
Yeah.
Well,
and they just don't happen.
Then you run into this problem, John. What kind of karate? Who's going to run it? And if you have competing teams, you have to have the same type of karate in every school. That's not going to happen. Not here in the States. Nobody likes each other. Everybody thinks their karate is different and better, and would never happen.
Yep.
And that's why, like, a lot of people are like, we should have a governing body that decides the standards of karate in the United States, right?
Good luck.
People will call for this. Well, not just good luck, but please don't ever do that, because the people who will standardize it are the schools that have a lot of money. The majority of them
and also the people that know nothing about it.
That know nothing about it. So they'll come to me and say, this is wrong.
Yeah.
No, that'll never happen here.
They'll do the best one I've seen is create shell organizations to help promote people. So it'll be a bunch of people who are like, I don't know.
That's big here.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I've seen it happen way too much. Mm-hmm. But I think overall, like, I would say that this is an interesting turn in the conversation on curriculum, because you guys have students, you guys have schools, you guys run them very well. I've never been successful in that. And I think one of the reasons why I've never been successful in that is because I've always tried to tune individuals. But every time I've gotten a big class, I mean, there's other reasons for that too. But like, I try to just tune to wherever individuals are. I had one student who off and on trained with me for 15 years, good friend of mine. Guy's in much better physical shape than I'll ever be. Can pick up a kata left, right, and center. Can pick up anything I show him left, right, and center. Do really well with it, and then just drop off training for 6 months or whatever. I had another person who had a ton of different physical issues and was just trying to lose weight. I had two completely different sides where you can't really you can have them in the same class, but kind of difficult to teach both of them at the same time. So hence where I kind of took curriculum to use it, but not to follow it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Well, I'll tell you, John. I mean, I don't run a big school. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
I have
how many students do you have, Dan?
Fluctuatingly, I average around 40, but that's a lot for me.
And that's probably 3 times what I have. I mean, I think karate students, I have less than 10. Kobudo students, we're at about 7 right now.
Yeah.
And those are the classes. I mean, the dojo that I run, we also have Aikido and Iaido and Judo, a few other arts as well, but I don't teach those. So, but through the entire dojo, we probably have less than 20 students. It's very small.
Yeah. So I mean, I run my school very similar, John. I mean, it's and the curriculum. Luckily, our curriculum kind of helps to pinpoint. Okay, this is good for you. This is good for you. This is good for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, the techniques are all the same. They're all doing the same forms. They're all doing the same partner drills. They're all doing the same breaking and whatever. But I try to make sure that everybody is conforming the technique to their own self and their own goals.
That's really good.
You have to always kind of stay on top of their goals too, which is hard. I think it's hard for me to kind of be like, always catch up on them and be like, hey, what are you working on this week? What do we need? What are you struggling with this week? The pandemic has been amazing for me for that, because I was only doing private and semi-private classes. So I was keeping notes on people. And that was awesome. What are you doing?
So it looked like a dog just crashed through your door. So sorry, I was laughing at that.
He did. What are you doing?
I just see a tail behind you.
You're insane.
Dogs are always welcomed on these. You're not. If we're not dog
luckily,
friendly,
the beagle is not out, so you won't get that going on this time.
what that was
Um,
the God stream. That was when you had that was when you had the voice of God, and totally my fault.
but my my whole point in that was I don't think sorry, my mother-in-law lives right next door, and her fire alarm is going off.
Oh no.
She's got her back door open, so I think she's probably cooking something and set it off.
Point is, make sure you
Anyway.
have at least one municipality away from your in-laws.
Anyway, I don't think that successful martial arts schools require you to have a lot of students in a single class. I don't think that's a necessary thing. I think you can do it. I think it's harder for people, but I think you can do it.
Yeah. Well, I like to hear that you sort of allow your curriculum to be shaped to the students' needs. One of the very first Shodans that I ever promoted or that I ever gave out was a gentleman in his 70s. And, if we looked at what was required on the Shodan exam, there was these, jump, spin, crescent kicks and all this. Like, it didn't have him do any of that stuff at his Shodan test. I mean, the guy's in his 70s. He still had a good, strong test. But, there's I've seen schools where they're like, well, if you can't do that jump, spin, crescent kick, I don't care how old you are. Sorry, that's it. You can't kick that. If you can't put your kick at Jodan at head level, sorry. I'm like, allow for those accommodations for people, sure.
Right. Well, and I try to tell my students, and this is how I approach this. I try to tell my students, it's not accommodations. I'm not giving you accommodation. I'm pushing you to your limit. If somebody can jump 10 feet in the air and jump over, like my last break for my Odan, for my 5th Dan test, I had to jump over 3 people, bent at the waist, and do a flying sidekick, break the board. But the purpose of this break was not that I could jump over 3 people, because the majority of my test was kicking. I did, thousands of kicks. My legs are just, jelly, and then I have to do this flying sidekick over these people. So it's not about the kick, it's not about the height, it's not about what, it's about, can I take my legs and do this thing when they're dead?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how many people I'm jumping over.
Right.
What matters is, can I be pushed to that limit and break it?
Yep.
So it's not about accommodation. It's about, I'm pushing you to your limit.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because
Good way to put it.
I just ran a test in Connecticut not too long ago, and there was a guy who had to do that break, and he had to jump over 3 people, bent to the waist, do a flying sidekick for his was he doing 2nd Dan? I think 2nd Dan. But the ceilings were super low, and he was like my height, so like if he were to do his break correctly, he would have jumped through the ceiling. So what was tough for him was, I'm going to drop them a little lower, and you have to jump long ways, but you can't hit the ceiling. And he was like, oh. So like, this was like, so like, it's all about pushing. It's all about pushing them to their limit.
Yep, absolutely.
Hold on, I'm gonna put my dog inside.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Take a moment to do that. I think I haven't run a test in a long time, and I remember, this is bringing me back to a time when I actually was tested, and I remember the guy came into the room, and there's probably a group of like 15, 20 of us, came into the room with his like baseball cap on. He went over to the weapons rack, took his baseball cap on, put it on the weapons rack. I was like, "Are you ready? Here we go." And just was started the whole weekend of just training, 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 calisthenics, calisthenics, run, 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 calisthenics, calisthenics.
Yep.
Go around, do all this stuff, and he wasn't really trying to find one thing, but he was just pushing people to where they could go, and kind of playing the funny psychological things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, even though I do kind of have my out and out reservations on all things rank, I think experiences like that, times like that, are really important for people's growth.
Sure. Yeah.
And to build a community with people. I know the people who I did that with won't forget that, and I think there's kind of a build in that group, regardless of whatever comes out of that later.
Yeah, I mean that's how I sort of came up through my dojo. Was we ran tests in that sort of fashion, and it was that badge of honor if you puked your guts up in your test, because they pushed you so hard. Yeah. And I think there's value in that sort of testing for those types of experience. That sort of that shugyo, that spirit polishing sort of thing. I start to have a problem with it when it becomes more about the when it becomes a power trip where you're just trying to torture students because you enjoy seeing them, pass out or get sick. And I've been around people that are like that, where it's like, right. It's a badge of honor for them to see someone, go blow chunks off the mat. Like come on now, that's a little sadistic. We're getting away from martial arts here and just more about just humiliating people. And I'm not about that.
Yeah. It should be the chunks from something good, not the chunks from something bad.
There you go. Good chunks.
Yeah, good chunks.
Good chunks.
Good chunks. Good chunks. I think
that's gonna be the new name of this show.
Good chunks. Good chunks. With Sal, Dan, and John. I'm making that.
Like how much of what we were given over the past 40 years or whatever has been misunderstandings. Right, like you mentioned shugyo, right? Like shugyo, like there's a lot of value there, but that idea of you have to suffer, that's not necessarily a requirement.
Sure.
Right, so like there's a misunderstanding of this. I've been privy to a lot of misunderstandings in my training, and I just Yeah.
Cool. Well, gentlemen, I think ending on overcoming misunderstandings in good chunks is a good place to leave it.
Always end on good chunks.
Always end on good chunks. Sal, if people want to find you and your amazing manipulation of steel, where can they find you?
So on Instagram, I'm at Steel Mace Karate, and on YouTube, I haven't updated that channel yet, but I think it's still called Functional Karate and Kobudo, because originally it was more about practical kata application of karate and kobudo, which it still is, but it's now got all this steel mace crap in it. So yeah, functional karate and kobudo on YouTube.
Cool. And Dan, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
So similar Instagram. My dojang's page is Well Within Martial Arts. If you want calligraphy, it's Martial Calligrapher. And
awesome.
On YouTube is Dan Bernardo, I think. It's just my name. And then yeah. And where can they find you, John?
They can find me at Karate Without Belts. Pretty much, if you just type it into Google, it's there. We actually officially have the URL www.karatewithoutbelts.com now, so it takes you to a webpage that needs to be redesigned, but baby steps. And fellas, where can they find us?
Boojin TV.
Boojin.
That's where they can find all the good stuff.
All of the good stuff and more. Stuff that Dan has not really good chunks. Good chunks of everything. Good chunks of Sal. Things that Sal is not put out into the world and is only there. Stuff that Dan has not put out in the world is only there. And higher version.
It's all secrets.
Yes, all the secrets, all the
Yeah,
madness,
good
all
exclusive stuff there that you can't find anywhere else.
good chunks all around.
Good chunks.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on. And any other closing stuff we want to say before we get out of here, other than good chunks?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think
Cool.
that's good.
Good chunks.
All right, everybody have a good
Thank you.
chunk week, and we'll see you next time.